Toastmasters and our most welcome guests. Witches' brooms don't last forever. They grow old, and even the best of them one day lose the power of flight. Fortunately, this doesn't happen in an instant. A witch can feel the strength of her broom slowly leaving. Speedy brooms that in their youth used to be able to outrace hawks are now passed by slow-flying geese. Evidently, sometimes, though it is rare, a witch's broom can lose its power without warning and fall quickly to the ground without warning, which is exactly what happened one cold autumn night many years ago. Out of a moonlit sky, a dark cloaked figure came spinning to the ground along with its tired broom, and it landed right next to a small white farmhouse that was owned by a lonely widow by the name of Minna Shaw. When Minna awoke in the morning, she went out to her vegetable garden and she was surprised to find this witch bloody and bruised. She could barely stand up on her own. At first, the widow was horrified. What's this witch doing here? But because she was a kind woman, she helped the witch into her house, put her to bed, and the witch got into bed, put her dark cloak around her, and fell soundly asleep. She slept all day and all night. She awoke at midnight and crept through the widow's house. Minna Shaw was asleep in a chair by the fire, and the witch knelt down and picked up a glowing ember, took it outside, built a fire, into which she took a strand of her hair and threw it in the fire. Before long, you could see another witch circling high above, who landed, and the two witches got on the one broom and took off together. When Minna Shaw awoke in the morning, she wasn't surprised to find that the witch had gone, because witches, she knew, had special powers. What she was surprised was that the broom was left behind, and she supposed it had lost its power, and sure enough, she started using it around the house, and it was just as good, or no worse, no better than any broom she'd used before. One morning, Minna Shaw was lying in bed when she heard a noise from the kitchen. She crept into the kitchen and saw something that made her heart jump. There was the broom sweeping the floor all by itself. At first she was frightened. The broom turned to her and just went back to work. And she thought, well, it seems harmless enough, and what's more, it was doing a wonderful job. Unfortunately, the broom swept all day and all night. At night, in order to get some peace, the widow Shaw took the broom and locked it in the closet. But it tapped insistently, "Let me out." So she finally let the broom out. And as she lay in bed, just listening to it, sweeping each room over and over, she wondered if it could learn to do other things. So the next day she took it outside to her farm, and sure enough, she had to show it how to do something only once. And soon it could chop wood, it could bring the cow in from the pasture, it carried water, it could even pick out simple tunes on a piano, playing one note at a time. Not a week passed before the widow's neighbors who lived across the street, the Spivies, found out about the broom. It was one of the Spivies' 8 children that first spotted the broom, and he brought his father over to see the broom. "Is it true? Did she really have such a broom?" Mr. Spivey wanted to know. "Oh yes," Minna Shaw said. "It's wonderful. It can chop wood, it can sweep, it can even pick out tunes on a piano." She brought him around to the back where it was busily chopping wood with an axe. Mr. Spivey was horrified. "That is an evil, evil thing. That is the devil." Red-faced haste, he ran back to his house. As the weeks went by, all the neighboring community found out about the broom, and they all came around to see it. The men agreed that it probably was an evil thing, but their wives pointed out that it was such a great help to the widow. And what's more, it played the piano beautifully, considering you could only pick out one tune at a time. Then, one day, what happened was, even though it had learned how to do all these wonderful things around the house, sweeping really was its special pleasure. So it decided to go down the road to the road that separated the Spivies and the widow's house, and there it could sweep for hours, endlessly sweeping happily. Two of the Spivey boys and their dog saw it. They came up to the broom and started kicking stones in front of it. The broom simply ignored them and hopped off and started sweeping another area. But the Spivey boys would not leave it alone. They called the broom names. They picked up sticks and started hitting it. Suddenly, the broom stopped sweeping. It turned to the boys and it knocked them so hard on the head that they fell to the ground in tears. The Spivey dog ran after the broom, yipping and yapping and biting at the bristles. "Get him!" the boys yelled. So the dog leapt up and it grabbed the broom by the handle. But it was not there for long. The broom flung the dog up into the air. That night, the widow Shaw heard a knock at her door, a very loud knock. It was Mr. Spivey. He was not happy. He told the widow, "That thing has beaten my sons and likely done worse to my dog." The poor dog was nowhere to be found. "I've come for the broom and I'm taking it with me. I told you that was an evil thing." The widow stopped and thought about it for a minute and said, "If it has done such things, it must be gotten rid of." She took them into the kitchen where she kept it sleeping. There it was, slumbering. "If you wake it carefully," she told them, "or if you try not to wake it, you should be able to move it." So he took the broom outside, lit it on fire, and within seconds, it was reduced to ashes. Life soon returned to normal around the farm. The Spivies even found their dog, hungry but healthy, caught in the tall branches of the spruce tree. Then, one night, the widow Shaw called the Spivies with frightening news. She had seen the ghost of the broom, white as snow, walking through the forest, carrying an axe. At first, Mr. Spivey didn't believe her, but that night, under a full moon, he looked out his window and he saw a ghost walking through the forest, circling his house, closer and closer. The second night, it circled even closer to the Spivey's house. On the third night, the ghost of the broom came up and tapped lightly with its axe on the Spivey's front door. The next day, the Spivies packed up all their dearest possessions, their 8 children and their dog, and they took off. They begged the widow to come with them, but she said, "No, I'll stay here in my simple farmhouse." "You're a brave woman," they told her. That night, Minna Shaw fell asleep in a chair by the fire. She'd been listening to simple tunes, played out one note at a time on a piano. A gentle tap awoke her. There was the broom, not a ghost at all, but still covered with the white coat of paint that she'd given it. "You play so nicely," said Minna Shaw. The broom bowed, put another log on the fire, and played another tune.